There's no limit whatsoever to the amount of power that you're willing to expend to make that happen. And we know what'll happen because it's already happened to Germany and the UK, and it's happened to a large degree to Canada. And there's no reason to assume at all that Mark Carney is a leopard who's changed his spots. Quite the contrary. And so what's the conclusion with regards to his pedigree? It's like Mark Carney's an educated person and he's no fool. Oh, yeah. Now, the Prime Minister of Germany, the head of Germany, sorry, not the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister of Japan came to Canada a year ago, 2 years ago, cap in hand, asking the Liberal Party if Canada could make long-term arrangements with their countries to provide them with natural gas. And Trudeau said he couldn't make a business case for that. And Trump just signed $1 trillion deal. And I guess that was the business case. And that's $150,000 for every Canadian family that went down the drain just with that one deal. Oh, yeah. It makes absolutely no difference whatsoever, because all that's happened is that China, that has, like 25 times as many people as Canada, and India, which has even more people, economies and populations that are so large that they make Canada fundamentally irrelevant on the industrial and the population side. All they've been doing is picking up the slack. And so China's carbon dioxide output has increased radically over the last 20 years, as has India's, swamping any possible effects of climate amelioration by tiny populations like Canada.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney. How's everybody doing? So what a strange time in Canada.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful here in sunny Nova Scotia, though. No doubt about that. Let's get into the video. Here we go. Oh, yeah.
My insight and understanding of PRC foreign interference comes from 32 years of operations with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, most of which was in what we called counterintelligence. I worked in CI against hostile states, both in the field and in headquarters, for a number of years. And this also includes what we refer to as state-driven foreign interference. When I started working, it was in the Cold War, and espionage was the all-consuming threat in the West and in Canada in particular. That was what we worked against various state actors.
Oh, yeah. What did you think of that, guys?
Claim openly with evidence that CSIS has known about Chinese foreign interference in Canada for at least the last 30 years. Every federal governments, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau today, have been compromised by agents of the Communist China.
Then Carney's definitely your man. So, with regards to this promised utopia of a new future, one of the things Carney says, for example, after he talks about the fact that 75% of our fossil fuel resources will have to be left in the ground, is this promised new magical utopia of renewable jobs, especially for places like Alberta. Now, he says that if we unleash innovation in the private sector, that all the problems that are associated with the transition to net zero will somehow be solved. So let's see what's happened in countries where that's actually being attempted. So I think we should talk about Germany and the UK. So Germany has been more green, arguably, than Canada, let's say, for the last 10 years. And they've shut off their nuclear plants, and they've made a transition to renewables. And so what's the consequence of that? Well, one consequence...
What do you think of the new assisted dying bill here in the UK?
I'm booked in next week, mucker. This country is a fucking shithole.
...is that German energy prices are now 5 times as expensive as they are in the US. And then you might say, well, that's a small price to pay for saving the planet. But then we could take that apart. So Germany is rapidly deindustrializing and their economy is tanking, and all the industrial production that they no longer manage is only shifting to other places in the world like China and India. So it's not like it's going away. It's just not happening in Germany.
You know, you can get up to 82,000 Canadian dollars from Canadian government for doing nothing.
And the Germans, for example, scuttled their nuclear plants. And so what have they done? They've turned to coal burning plants. And the Germans don't burn anthracite, which is high quality coal that doesn't produce much particulate matter, which is like the dust pollution that would be associated with smog. And they burn lignite, which is low quality coal, and it produces a lot of particulate. Plus, it produces a lot of carbon dioxide. And so what's happened in Germany after 10 years of green idiocy is that their power prices are 5 times as expensive. They're hyper reliant on places like Russia and the Middle East for their fossil fuel production, not least because Canada was too daft to enter into an agreement with them. And they pollute more per unit of energy produced than they did 10 years ago.
Car density actually rose 12% from 2010 to 2019 in Germany. Germany's automobile industry makes a lot of money. It employs hundreds of thousands of workers and has a very powerful political lobby. The 2015 Dieselgate scandal, in which German car maker VW was found to have cheated on emissions tests, has put more pressure on car companies to clean their act up.
Oh, yeah. And so that's going to mean no flights for you and no clothes for you, maybe 3 changes of clothing per year, only a short haul flight every 3 years, for example, a radical reduction in the amount of meat that you eat, a radical reduction in private car ownership. And you might think, well, that's paranoid conspiracy theory, but you can go look at the documents of the C40 coalition of the top cities in the world and look at their aims for the next 20 years. And you can decide if they're on the same side as Carney or whether they're on your side. And you can draw your own conclusion. Because if your presumption is that the planet is facing an environmental catastrophe because of carbon dioxide production, and that's such an emergency that we have to do every possible thing we can with every financial decision, no matter how much it costs to ameliorate it, then there's no limit whatsoever to the amount of power that you're willing to expend to make that happen. And we know it'll happen because it's already happened to Germany and the UK, and it's happened to a large degree to Canada. And there's no reason to assume at all that Mark Carney is a leopard who's changed his spots. Quite the contrary. And so what's the conclusion with regards to his pedigree? It's like Mark Carney's an educated person and he's no fool, but he's completely untested in the electoral domain, and he obviously has contempt for it because he's willing to be prime minister and to act like a governing prime minister, despite the fact that he's never put his policies to test in front of the Canadian electorate, despite the fact that only 130,000 people have positioned him as prime minister, and despite the fact that he's apparently willing to deceive Canadians about being an outsider, which he most certainly is not, and with regards to his actual aims, which is net zero by 2050, and he's willing to claim the contrary because he's going to turn Canada into an industrial powerhouse. Oh, yeah.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Happy birthday. A few days short. A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day.
WTF.
Here, here.
That's it, gang. So we'll wrap up right there. Aaron, Canadian Looney, thank you very much for watching. We're trying to show Canadians what I'm learning and what I base my opinions on. Most of the time we cover Parliament, but when they're not in session, what are you going to do? We cover the news. That's it. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you'd like to learn more about Canadian federal politics, hit that subscribe, get notified. We do live shows, especially when everything is in session. Anyhow, Aaron, Canadian Looney, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.